Hey there, everybody. Jason Shappert here with a buddy of mine, Mike Daniels, who actually just passed his private pilot check ride. And I flagged Mike down. He is a M0A fan and also someone who helped us out with flying across America. So Mike has been a great asset to myself and everything, and he is here to share his knowledge with you guys. So Mike, how you doing, bud?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I want to share a story with you guys real quick. When I first met Mike, now Mike is in Vegas, and we flew into Vegas, and Mike and I were talking on the phone and everything, and I told Mike where I was and where he would meet us. So I'm waiting for him, looking around for Mike and his wife, and Mike comes up to me and goes, "Are you one of them?" And, and here I am in the middle of Las Vegas going, maybe I'm one of them. I don't know. So and look at Mike. He's a big scary guy. So I was kind of worried, but sure enough, it was Mike, and he wasn't as scary as I thought. So that was my first impression of Mike Daniels. So it's kind of interesting. But anyways, Mike, what everyone really wants to know is about the check ride. I mean, there's so many. A lot of people have fears and anxieties with the check ride. I mean, all I want is a recap of yours. I mean, what'd you do planning wise to prep us for it and everything? Just kind of run us through your check ride and what you did for it.
Basically, I did a lot of studying. What worried me the most was the oral. I wasn't as worried about my flying, but I felt that the maneuver was pretty good. So the only way I seemed to be able to learn anything study-wise to prep for the oral was to write it down. To do arrow, aviate, the little acronyms
Right.
we use, track everything we're supposed to know that we know the examiner's going to ask. And I just wrote those down, and I just studied as much as I could up to the day of the check ride. I was studying up to the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the flying goes, I was practicing all the maneuvers in the PTS. I was going up 2 hours at a whack 3 times a week, a couple of weeks before the check ride. 3-4 days before the check ride, I went up with my instructor a final time. And he basically did a mock check ride with me as far as the flying part goes.
Mm-hmm. Cool, very cool.
I
Now,
read your book.
oh well, we weren't going to mention that, but I guess we have to now that you brought it up.
I did read it, so I read your book, and ironically enough, there was a couple other podcasts that were just, timing was almost perfect, where they were doing episodes on how to pass a check ride.
Right. That's the
All
thing.
sources I could pull in.
Yeah, that's the thing. There is so much information out there for people to get their hands on, not just on my website, but all across, the web finding stuff. So let's talk about this now. What was the most difficult question you were asked on your oral exam? And what was the part that worried you the most on the flight? I'll let you think about those two.
Wow, the most difficult question I was asked on the oral exam. Actually, one of the things, I get the impression a lot of DPs do this. One of the things he did is he wrote a bunch of problems up on the board, different questions, different problems, and he had me go down and answer all these problems. And one of them was density altitude. And he picked a airport in California that's at like 57 foot, and he wrote up some weather information on the board for it, and I had to calculate it. And it was basically, I had a little paper density altitude chart I carried with me.
Right.
It was off the chart, so I had to project past that, and then I double checked myself with my wizard wheel. Like, detective 2,400 feet was the density altitude of this airport with the weather he'd given.
Uh-huh.
So that was a tough one. The hardest one though was calculating the takeoff roll with the weather information he gave me for the Tomahawk gear riding. And that
Oh, yeah.
Because the DOH and this 1977 Tomahawk charts like
Yeah.
really small and really hard to draw lines across.
Right, exactly. And they're so old. Yeah. That's awesome. So that's interesting that you carry the density altitude form with you, and part of that's flying out west too. We don't necessarily do that as much in Florida. We have what you're referring to as the wizard wheel. We call them an E6B in Florida. I don't know what happened to you guys in Vegas, but I know. I'm teasing you. So what about the flight? I mean, what were you most worried about going into the flight?
Just nervousness of being judged,
Yeah.
being graded. kind of guy, and it's really hard not, to be being judged and critiqued. So I was pretty nervous about it, and I made a couple dumb little errors, but obviously not bad enough to fail me because I passed.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I was nervous about that.
Nervous about being nervous.
Turns around a point where probably my weakest maneuver, that and soft field landing.
Yeah.
I can pull them off.
Uh-huh.
I'm not the best with those.
Yeah.
I can do them within the standard most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you bust altitude a little bit, you correct it. And
Right. Well, part of that is, too, I mean, keep in mind, you're flying in the Tomahawk, so you're a low-wing aircraft with a T-tail. That doesn't make it easy for soft field landing. That's two things against you, So that's really interesting, though. Was there anything on the flight you wish you could have had back? Like, man, I really muffed up those steep turns or something like that.
that would be it. Yes, the steep turn.
Oh, really? That's funny.
My steep turns, and I guess I wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't prepared for this particular part, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite realize it was going to be figure eight. I thought there was a steep turn to the left, and then later on we do one to the right or something.
Right.
I didn't quite understand what he was saying, and basically he wanted me to do a steep turn to the left, come back out on the same heading, and then immediately roll right into one on the right. And I didn't quite catch that at first. I came out on the heading and was flying my heading, and he was like, just to return to the
Yeah. That's interesting because for a commercial pilot, you have to do that consecutively. A turn to the left and instantly one to the right. That's commercial pilot stuff. Private pilot, you're allowed to hold your heading for a bit. So maybe he was just holding you to some higher standards to kind of see how you performed.
Maybe he was a little confused because he does lots of check rides.
Yeah, or he was like, I can't remember what license this guy's going for. You should look at your certificate in the mail. Maybe it'll say commercial pilot, and you'll be like, yeah. Yeah, that might be good. So, cool. Well, Mike, I won't take up any more of your time. One last question here. Let's say there's someone listening to this right now, and I'm sure there is, that is in your shoes, or your former shoes, I guess, right now. What words of advice could you give them to help them succeed on their private pilot check ride, or any check ride for that matter?
Well, obviously, I think the thing that helped me more than anything was feeling confident that I knew I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not confident, you got to know you can do it. You got to be confident. I mean, of course, I had a little doubt, but I think projecting the confidence is what instills the DA or the DPE to say that, yeah, I think you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I prepared me very carefully. The first thing I did, I checked the briefing, right? The passenger briefing.
Right, good.
He told me that was the most thorough briefing I ever had. He
Wow.
said more than once, your instructors prepared you very well for this. So I think that helped overcome the little errors that I made, the preparedness that I had for it.
Wow.
I would be confident, study, know everything on the sectional. So he points to anything on the sectional, do it. And he did something that was really neat I want to mention.
Huh?
I've never seen this done before. I think it's a great technique. He
Right.
puts on Henderson Airport here in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
If you're standing on the runway, I want you to go up to 24,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me which airspace is your transition. And you're in D, then you're in E for 500 feet. Then
Right.
you're in Bravo for Nellis, and it just kind of layers all the way up.
Yeah, exactly. You hit Class A, you hit Class E again. Yeah.
Very neat exercise for that particular unique area I happen to fly around.
Uh-huh. That's very neat. Yeah, I've done similar things with my students. Like, you're in a rocket ship and you're going straight up. That's tough. Like the Class E airspace. Where does Class E start? Where does G end? That's confusing to a lot of people. So that's a real great exercise for people to do. So that is very cool, Mike. So you are a private pilot. I mean, have you taken the wife flying yet, or what you been up to?
Oh yeah, we did. The Saturday I did the check ride on Monday the 20th, and the following Tuesday, whatever day that was. Anyway, the following Saturday, we did a little flight in the Tomahawk out to Jean, Nevada. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Cool.
It's 0L7 if you're interested.
Uh-huh.
There's a casino out there next to Jean, of course it's Nevada. And it's 40 miles south of town. It wasn't a real far flight, but it gets really hot really fast.
Yeah.
There's a lot there in Vegas, so I didn't want to be up too late in the air. So we went out there, flew out there, had breakfast, flew back. We're done by like 9:30 in the morning when it was a zillion degrees out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we plan on doing doing some more flying together. My wife and I were really looking forward to doing some of it. But it's so hot this time of year that
Yeah.
it's like too many long trips just kind of fiddle around the valley here and maybe over by Hoover Dam for some pictures or something.
Right.
Start to cool down a bit.
That's awesome. Very cool. And before I let you go, tell everyone what you are building in the garage and in the living room.
I'm building a Zenith CH750. It's an STOL. It's a great little airplane. The rudder's done with the back here behind me. The elevators, the horizontal stabilizer is mostly done in the garage. You start the elevator next. I'm pretty excited to be building that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's very awesome. Well, cool, Mike. Thank you so much for your time. If you guys want to follow along with Mike, links to his Twitter and links to his Blogspot blog are right down beneath this video, so you can check that out, learn more about Mike. And Mike, thank you so much for your time with everything. I really appreciate it.
I plug my podcast.
Oh yeah, well, everything. Your podcast. What was I thinking?
MileHighFlyers.com.
Yeah.
We're at Potapalooza at Oshawa.
What was I? Mike, you plug it for me because I'm not going to do it justice. Go for it.
Yeah, well, you can listen to us on the MileHighFlyers.com is where you can find our podcast. You can go to iTunes, Mile High Flyers. It's a pretty good podcast. There's basically 4 or 5 of us that get together and talk. Most of the crew's in Denver, which is why it's Mile High Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out here in Vegas. My wife's on it. She shares a lot of my flying experience. She's on every 2 episodes here.
That's neat. Very cool. So a link to that, guys, will also be down beneath this, so you guys can check out that, listen to the podcast, listen to Mike. And Mike, I believe that's all I have for you guys. Remember, a good pilot is always learning. I'll catch you guys later.
Absolutely. I got my license to learn. Thanks, Jason.
All right, see ya.